DevilNeverCry.
The developers at Square Enix have officially thrown down the gauntlet, stating that Final Fantasy XVI will go above and beyond Devil May Cry, and so I think that's definitely worth talking about. As many of you know by now, Final Fantasy XVI has had a recent marketing blowout where myself, amongst a myriad of other people, were able to get hands-on with the game and publish a whole set of preview content. Alongside this, of course, the Final Fantasy XVI dev team have gone on record in multiple interviews to discuss at length the mechanics of Final Fantasy XVI, one of which I do want to talk about today, conducted by Ars Technica. If you're a fan of Final Fantasy, I ask that you like this video and consider subscribing. Not only does it help the channel out a ton, but it means you won't miss out on all the Final Fantasy XVI content that's to come. Not only is Final Fantasy XVI directly compared to Devil May Cry, stating that it goes above and beyond what we've seen in 5, but we also learn a whole slew of information that many of you Devil May Cry and hack and slash fans overall might be very pleased to hear about. FF16's battle director and the previous battle director for Devil May Cry 5, Ryota Suzuki, goes on record to state that they've implemented a scoring system or a ranking system that evaluates your overall combat performance in the background, much like Devil May Cry and Bayonetta. That system, however, remains hidden on a player's first playthrough to ensure that they don't focus too much on combat performance. Adding, once you get to that second playthrough, however, that's when we throw down the gauntlet and offer a challenge that is going to be above and beyond what you see in Devil May Cry 5. That right there, of course, is an incredibly bold claim, and one that if I hadn't actually got hands-on with the game, I would have found incredibly hard to believe. I would like to clarify here that they are specifically talking about challenge in a video game. I don't necessarily think that this means that they believe that Final Fantasy XVI may have more mechanical depth in terms of execution and combo strings and the free-flow gameplay that the Devil May Cry series is known for, but purely on challenge. And challenge in and of itself can come in a multitude of different factors. I do briefly want to mention that the preview build that I was able to get hands-on with, alongside everybody else of course, was from a very early section of Final Fantasy XVI. The developers specifically chose this point as it was the most accessible, allowing everybody who got to play it to be engaged without feeling frustrated. And with that said, I don't necessarily think that the content that we're seeing is all that representative of the difficulty overall of Final Fantasy XVI, as I'd imagine the longer you play and the more you get into it, the harder the game is going to be. But I digress. Moving ahead in the interview, FF16's producer Naoki Yoshida goes on to clarify there will also be an arcade-style mode where players compete for high scores on leaderboards for different difficulty settings, with Ryota Suzuki then also chiming in, saying that they're trying to push the skill ceiling to an even higher level with what's called Ultimania Mode. To maintain an S rank throughout the Ultimania Mode, we believe it's more difficult than doing the same in Dante Must Die in Devil May Cry 5. The idea of rank running or score running a Final Fantasy game sounds absolutely alien and out there, but if I'm honest, it has me even more hyped to get hands-on with the game. When you typically think of an RPG with a difficulty mode that promises to be absolutely devastating or crushing, it often just means that they're going to boost up enemies until they're literally all tanks who output insane amounts of damage that can typically one-shot you. But considering how difficulty is handled in other Devil May Cry games, I'm excited to see what they do for Final Fantasy XVI. We already know from another interview that Final Fantasy XVI will indeed include a New Game Plus mode, which promises to have remixed enemy placements, enemy encounters, and brand new fights overall. Which again shows that they're thinking about more than just your typical stat boosts when it comes to higher difficulties, and I really am interested to see what this Ultimania mode really is all about. Part of me is also curious to see if they're going to go down the Final Fantasy VII Remake route, where hard mode in that game basically meant that you were unable to use items, but that remains to be seen. And that about does it for this interview. Let me know down in the comments below what your thoughts are on the so-called Ultimania mode and rank running in a Final Fantasy game in general. With all that said and done, it has been me, DevilNeverCry. I'd like to thank all of you for watching, and as always, I'll see you all next video.